I mean, I think overall, my role is always to identify key issues, anything that kind of comes up within the numbers, within efficiencies, booking, scheduling, software, that falls on my plate. Also, you know,
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Female Empowered. I am your host, Krista Gurka, and today I have our new COO. So if you've been following me for any period of time, you know that in 2018, maybe, we made a big transition in the company, and I brought on a COO. And Steve left at the end of 2021, and I was fortunate enough to bring on Joshua. And it was also my first experience using a recruiting firm. So maybe I'll do that in another podcast, because it was actually a really, really wonderful recruiting firm. Shout out to Good Soul Hunting. And maybe I'll actually bring you back on, Josh, to talk about I didn't ever talk to you about your experience from the other side, but so Joshua Mendez is our new COO and CFO, because he really owns both the operational aspect of the business as well as the financial aspect of the business. And he's been on since, I believe you started November or after Thanksgiving?
in December.
Yeah, December, right after Thanksgiving. So you're 4 months in. So you've hit your 90-day mark. You're still with us. So I think that's a good sign, hopefully.
Still here.
You're still here. And, I think a lot of people in our industry, we've had this conversation before, that this role was the very first high salary, non-direct cost of goods revenue generating salary. Does that make sense? But that was really basically
a long explanation.
That basically, for you guys that are all confused, that means he's not in direct, revenue generating, and that he doesn't provide a service. So it was a huge salary, my first time ever doing that, but it completely turned around the business and my life, because it took so many things off my plate. One that I wasn't really good at, but I felt it was for some reason, I believed I was supposed to be doing it. And I think that at some point, it's the job of the CEO or leader of the company to realize they have to get out of the way a little bit and have people that have strengths where maybe they don't, to help them with the business. So it's been and we've been super happy with you on. I know it's, and he's coming into a female predominant business. So that's, I'm sure, has its own storyline. So Josh, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and give us let everyone know kind of your background too, because I think it's interesting, because you were non-industry. You hadn't worked in the Pilates or healthcare or physical therapy business before. So let's hear a little bit about who you are and how you came to us.
Yeah. So originally, I am from Texas, born and raised there, went to college there, and I got a degree in music performance. Moved to New York City to pursue a career in opera, as you know, and it kind of led me into the food and beverage world, trying to keep food on my plate and not get evicted and live in a cardboard box on Broadway. That really is kind of the beginning of my, I guess, business professional career story. Working in New York City for about 10 years for many different restaurant groups, from operating capacity to directing, and had a son who was born in Brooklyn, and decided that we needed to move to Dallas, which is where I'm originally from. So we did that, and with that came a slight transition in my background, where transitioned from like brick and mortar traditional restaurant operations to retail. And that was super exciting. It allowed me more time to spend with my family, and it really gave me a better base of business that really helped me grow as an individual in my career. And as luck has it, life brought us here to Florida from Texas. And so we've only been in Florida here now for the last year or so. But, I think seeing the opportunity to continue my career growth, but also try something new and really engaging myself and challenging myself into a new type of business, into a new business sector, was very interesting to me. I started to become a little bit tired and bored of the old, F&B and retail and, working 90,000 hours a week and, only seeing my kids on pictures on iPhones, which wasn't very great. So, I'm incredibly grateful to be in this position with you, Krista, and have this opportunity, because your company and your vision and what we're working on today is far and beyond exciting. And, it gives me not only a sense of belonging to a great organization, but it also gives me a sense of ownership. So that conversation of coming on board for you and your company is something that is really important to me and my family and our career growth right now. So thank you for the opportunity, and I'm super happy to be here and with you.
Yeah, thank you for that. It's really been, I feel very fortunate that we were able to find someone like you with your skill set. And besides I would say how would we say it? Like the hard skills, like the objective skills, your soft skills and your interpersonal relationships with the members of the team, those kind of things are really, really important too, I believe, especially when we're working with small businesses, right?
Absolutely.
And obviously our staff has dwindled a little bit since in the last 2 years. So it's really important to have not only those like standard, objective skills that you have, but also to have the soft skills. So coming from food and beverage, I will say one of the things that I was looking for, to be honest, I was hoping I'd be able to hire a man, even though I'm coach all women and I love that, but I really feel like having a diverse set of opinions and voices on the team is important for me.
Yeah, for sure.
That was one. I did also want to hire someone that was non-industry, again, because I know the industry stuff. What I don't know is what I don't know, like about business and about operational efficiencies sometimes, and about looking at numbers. And I'll be honest, Excel, and Joshua and I were talking a little bit pre-show about I hate Excel. So I needed someone on the team that could extrapolate the data and really help us as a unit kind of like understand what the data was telling us. Then put it in the industry market, right? Food and beverage, I love, because you're dealing with service. It's a service-based industry. You're definitely dealing with, what I also thought was helpful is when you're dealing in food and beverage, and this is how I put myself through college, you're working with all levels of, you have managers, but then you have servers, you have bartenders, you have busboys, clean. So you're working, I think it's really important to be able to communicate with all different levels of the team.
Yes.
They're all different people. Someone who's making a salary of $150,000 a year is different than someone who's making $6 an hour plus tips. Yeah. Right. So, and by the way, $6 an hour is like 17 times what I was making when I was a bartender, but still, anyways. So what are some of the things I'd love to hear? And truly, that I have thick skin. So I would love to hear what are some of the things that initially stood out for you when you came into Pilates in the Grove. And then some of the things that over the last 4 months, you've been able to say, oh, now I kind of understand why we do things this way. And what are some, so how was your first 4 months in that? I'm sure it was a little bit of a transition when you first came in.
Yeah, I think there's a few things that, I can sort of point to. I think I had to really, I worked in a leadership capacity for a company previously that was for 6 years that predominantly was all male focused and top down male direction. And even though I had several female leaders working under my watch, it was a very male dominated profession. And so I really had to rely on a lot of the emotional intelligence training and growth that I've had over the years, and really put that into perspective coming into this industry, being in a completely flipped in a female dominant atmosphere. And that is it's really, I think it's actually much better for my stress level, honestly. I don't
really?
know.
I thought it would have gone the other way.
I don't know if some
I thought
of
you
you
would
would
have been
agree.
like, this is insanity. These ladies are cray cray.
but I feel like it's helped my stress level, and it's gotten me in touch with different ways to communicate, perhaps that I didn't utilize previously. But that's transition's been really great for me, and it's really put me at ease moving forward. I think also one of the issues that or challenges I'll say that I had was understanding all the different layers of the business and how it is brought together, because your business and the health and wellness and fitness business is just so different than what I was doing. The numbers are all the same and how they connect with each other, but the the functionality, the process, all of that took me a little bit of time to digest. And luckily, we've got really great people in place in the brick and mortar studios that really helped me kind of understand, and were patient. And I probably asked some pretty ridiculous questions sometimes, like, why is this way? And they're like, because it is, just but
I think that's really good though. And to be honest, it's almost why the onboarding process I kind of am like, when I bring in, and it's not like I have 20 executives on the team. We have like 3 managers, but I like for other people to make their own decisions. Kind of like, I like that you ask questions like, well, why do we do things that way? Right now, we might be like, if the answer is like, well, we've always done it that way, I don't love that answer too. There should be some rationale behind it. And if you're like, hey, what if we try it a different way? Right. So I think it's even like navigating the website, how do we built the website. So for me, I understand how to navigate it. So for somebody to come in and say, this is very confusing, I couldn't figure out how to book a class, that is really vital information, So, and you are an educated person, right? So if you who understands computers and understands how to imagine my 65-year-old that's not very comfortable on her smartphone or iPad or computer. Right. So those kind of things are really important, which is great. And I do think that, one of the things you did, which I really liked when you came on board too, was you met individually with everyone on the team. And I didn't give you I just kind of told you what their role was in the company.
Sure.
But I really didn't give you any kind of insight. I believe it's important for you to make your own decisions and choices. And I think that went a long way with the team too. I thought that was great.
Yeah, I think so. The team did a really great job welcoming me. And I think that's important. When you bring on somebody in this type of role, you want it to be more organic than opening up a playbook and saying, this is how we do everything and you do it this way, for sure.
Yeah, I think, well, because learned this over the years. I used to feel like everyone had to do everything the same way. Like this is how it has to be done. And there is definitely things that can be automated and like, let's just do this the same way every time.
Yeah.
What I've learned over a lot of therapy that not everyone has to do it like me. And if it's not me doing the job, for example, you do payroll, right? So if you choose to do payroll in a way that I don't do payroll, but if the numbers are the same, you're the one that's doing the job. So as long as we're not going to get audited by the IRS, like it's okay. If the girls, the administrators and the coordinators, if they want to keep their desk looking a certain way, like as long as it's neat and the customers aren't seeing garbage on the desk, like why do I care if their mouse is on one side or the other side?
Sure.
Those are the little things I think sometimes as business owners, we have to like let go of the vine and just say, as long as the work is getting done, how it should get done, the end result is the same, and it's getting done on time, we have to sometimes let go of like how people do it, right? So if you came in and said, the person before me did it this way, I would prefer to do it this way. And as long as it's not crazy changing the whole system, it's okay, I think.
Absolutely. That's a whole other topic too, to discuss about, letting individuality come into your business and how that affects your top and bottom line. That's a huge topic, but seriously, I think that's important. And I'm happy that you give people that, that opportunity to kind of make their area and their space within your company theirs to own.
Sometimes I'm getting better. I'm getting better. I run like a tight, I run a tight ship in my eyes. Sometimes I can be like, oh dear Lord, why is that sitting over there? It's driving me crazy. But I'm trying to be like, this is a Krista problem. Like, this is my internal dialogue. Is this a Krista problem? Or is this like a Pilates in the Grove problem, right? Because if it's a Krista problem, I have to learn to let that go to a certain extent.
I think I always ask myself when I'm in that position, do I truly believe that this that I'm looking at is going to deter revenue from coming into my door or not, right? Is this personal or is this like really going to affect my business?
Right.
And when you look at it that way, it does change the perspective a little bit.
Yeah, totally. So, well, I'd love to get into, let's talk a little bit about kind of your role within the company.
Sure.
So and I know it changes day to day, but kind of like an overall day to day, what are some of the things that you work on for Pilates in the Grove?
I think overall, my role is always to identify key issues, anything that kind of comes up within the numbers, within efficiencies, booking, scheduling, software, that falls on my plate. Also, what I work on a daily and weekly basis is alignment. Make sure that we're aligned and make sure that I'm aligned with Kelly and make sure that Kelly's aligned with the studios. Messaging and alignment is obviously super important. And, we have a lot of conversations and a lot of important conversations happen with one quick sentence on Slack. And, it's good to make sure that the alignment is always there. The other thing that I really focus on is, and this is, on a smaller scale, perhaps than other roles that I've had previously, but developing talent, spending time with our instructors, spending time with Kelly to look at, how she's doing, even if it's a conversation of what she has going on and giving me opportunities to jump in when I see opportunities to develop and to help. That's always been on the front burner for me in any role that I've taken, but specifically here when those opportunities arise.
Yeah, and that's been great. And Kelly, for those of you that don't know who Kelly is, she's going to be on a follow-up episode. She's our director of studio operations. So she is a physical therapist, a Pilates instructor, and basically she's on the ground at our physical locations. So she kind of staff goes directly to her usually. And then if she can't handle it, she goes to Joshua. And then if Joshua can't handle it, he comes to me. But most of the time, nobody comes to me, which is fabulous, which is
That's good.
really, yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
you've been integral in helping her step into that managerial role. Because I will tell people, and I did a podcast about this a couple episodes ago, the skill set that is required of you to lead and manage and hold people accountable is very different than the skill set that's required of you to provide the service as a technician. So right. Kelly having to be a leader and a manager and then hold her colleagues accountable is very different than the skill set she needs to have to be a physical therapist or teach a Pilates class. Yeah. And you've been really great at helping her develop language, be able to articulate things in a way that's comfortable for all involved, you know? And so the other thing is I don't think we have problems people on our team. I do think we all have the right people on our team, but there's still challenges, you know, and it is hard to have to tell the people you work with every day and hold them accountable for certain things. That's challenging. Yeah, it is. It is. and I think, you know, Kelly, our studio manager, she does a phenomenal job. So she does really, a great job. Really, really happy with that. You know, also, I think in terms of planning, right, the corporate planning side is also falls under my plate. And as we work together more and more, I think you release a little bit more to me, you know, in terms of accountability, you know, so that's really great to see. And honestly, the way I see it is if I really look at things like my role is if I have to touch something, it should be improved, right? In some way, some way, shape, or form. And so if I'm not doing that, then I have to kind of look at my process and how I, you know, look at problem solving or developing people, right? In any way, can I, when I look at measuring my own performances, if I was given a task to repair or to create or what have you, how has it affected the business and how has it improved, you know, process and procedure? So that's how I look at it. You know, on top of that, right, like I obviously am very heavily involved in the financial aspect of our business and planning, budgeting, forecasting, you know, everything that falls under that category. And I change light bulbs. So that's right. And that is ideal because we'll be like, Joshua, we need you to unscrew the screw for us and we need to change light bulbs. And to be honest, there's no one like anyone in Pilates in the Grove knows, like, there's no one above like, hey, we need to plunge a toilet today. So this is what we're going to do. Right. Exactly. So the other thing that I think is really great is like you create a buffer between myself and the team and the business sometimes. And for those of us that are business owners that created the business, that created the product, sometimes it's very personal for us. It's like our baby. And at least for me, I know that sometimes I take things personally when people say things. And so it's great for you to be able to hear them. And then you can bring them to me all streamlined. So in other words, if we have 15 staff members, 15 individuals coming to me creates a lot of task switching. Let's put it like, I can't focus my attention on any one thing, but if people talk to you and then you can get it into like one kind of, okay, these are the things that I've extrapolated that are really important that you need to handle, you can bring them to me. And then the things you can handle, you handle, which helps me stay focused. And this is when I tell people you're not really burnt out. What's happening is that you're in control of too many things, and that is not sustainable. Right. That's why you're exhausted. You can't get anything done. You know, and so, well, I would love to let's talk about the projections and the forecasting, because I think that's really, really important from a business perspective. Can you explain to people who may not know what forecasting is and how it's beneficial to businesses? Sure. You know, in the basic term,
and keep in mind, there's a million different types of forecast models for many different types of variables within your business, from conversions and scheduling and, turnover rate and whatnot. But from a financial perspective, forecasting allows you to pull back a curtain and look in the future to see the potential of what your business could be capable of. If you met specific metrics, it can tell you, how unprofitable your business is and what the longer term effect of that is. Limping along in a manner that you may be limping along. It gives you so many different inputs of information for you to really manage your business from the numbers perspective, and it really gives you an opportunity to look at how what you do, maybe it's inside of the studio, how you treat your customers, how easy opening the door is to your studio and how that affects your numbers and your forecasting. Basically at the end of the day, forecasting is your way to financial freedom, really.
Yeah. And so in simple terms, for what, like our industry, now that you've been around, you've seen our P&L, et cetera, what are some of the things that stick out to you from this industry on the P&L? So, there are things that if something, even talking about our P&L, which means profit and loss, for those of you that are like, what the hell does P&L stand for? Like things that are coming in, things that are going out, the biggest expenses you see kind of in our industry, because we're not buying a lot of so in the food and beverage, like there's a lot of inventory because you have to bring in food and beverage. We're not bringing in that stuff. So what are some of the things that kind of stand out to you in our industry?
I think this industry is incredibly profitable, I'll say, from a cost of goods standpoint, right? The Pilates, the physical therapy, everything that we do as business verticals is extremely profitable. I think some of the things that surprised me about it was exactly that, right? Like just how profitable is, once you remove the cost of performing that service, right? And that really opened up my eyes to the potential net margin that we could really go after. And what was also surprising is that how easily it is to, when you see the profitability potential, how easy it is to really fill your P&L with things that you may not need, right? Because it's there. You can see, okay, I'm making money when I sell this class or when I sell this physical therapy session. But if we're not doing a really strong job forecasting and looking at the long-term effect of these decisions that are made, then we tend to, that profitability tends to diminish quickly, and can be really damaging over time. And I think, that was really surprising to me, is that, when we looked at the P&L together, right? And we went line by line, and we began, I began to kind of realize perspective from you, but I think you also began to realize that, like, wow, like that's too much there, or you don't really need that, or, the business is not doing what it should be doing. So let's cut this back a little bit here without hurting X, Y, and Z. That was a little bit surprising, mostly because I think, from my perspective, when I came into this role, our P&L was really built for a specific level of business that we just haven't attained yet, right? So we've had those conversations. The other thing that was really surprising is how much money and I don't know why this really sticks out, but how much money we spend on marketing versus the dollar that we get back, you know? And
That's actually that's a big thing in our industry, because so many people, and marketing, as you know, is like this huge umbrella, like ginormous umbrella. And so without like a strategy, and again, imagine if we weren't even tracking that.
Yeah.
We wouldn't even notice how much money we're spending on that kind of stuff, you know?
Yeah. And, you know, I think as a rule of thumb, you know, what I would probably do in the future is, if we were ever faced with these decisions, is to look at marketing expense and liability as, like, if I'm going to spend $1, how many dollars am I getting back? Right? Not potential with graphs and, you know, like I need really firm numbers, right? I need to be able to see it in order to really invest in it. And also, I would recommend to do short-term contracts instead of long-term contracts with firms. You know, make them work for their money, right? If they're really going to be successful, they're going to make you money so you can continue with their service. So to anybody that's potentially looking at, you know, long-term, you know, marketing firms, or, you know, go short-term all the time.
Yeah. And you also have to have a good idea, a really good understanding of what your goal is.
Yes.
And your strategy, because if you don't understand it, you're going to give this ownership to somebody and they can tell you whatever they want. You're not going to understand to be able to go back to them and say, well, we wanted 100 leads, but these leads are not like nobody's converting to regular clients. So we're getting the wrong kind of leads, right? Yeah. So the marketing stuff, like, I think that's another, I'm getting a lot of ideas for future podcasts. So I think that's great. Yeah. And, you know, the point that you made about you bringing things to my attention, I think is valid, because I also think as a bit, well, and I'm going to speak for myself. I'm like a people pleaser. I really don't love confrontation. So I have strong opinions, but I don't love confrontation sometimes. So sometimes, especially, the hard decisions to make are when you have somebody or a company or a vendor of some sort that you actually really like they're great people. They're not doing anything wrong per se. They're showing up, they're being professional. But like you said, if there's not the return on the investment for that, right? So you have to make those hard decisions sometimes. And it's good to have that outside perspective to come in and say, you know, like, hey, Krista, we're like, this is just not going here. And then when you can look at the numbers and you can say, if we adjust this salary or cut, I mean, I can't even remember exactly what it was. I don't know if you remember what it was, but if we cut our marketing dollars by what, like $40,000 a year, what that actually did to our profit margin. Yeah. And so that goes back into our bottom line. And, you know, this is the difficult stuff of being an owner, but this is what we signed up for, kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, no, sure. And I think my outside of the box perspective coming in, I think also helps, you know, somewhat. But I think, you know, in terms of that marketing conversation, a lot of clients that you have, you know, are looking for that quick and that type of service that they don't have to worry about, that's going to bring in people so they can continue to work on the schedule, right? So they can continue to do that. And it's really easy, I think, to get really caught up in like what these companies can do. So I think that would be a great idea for another podcast, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And because that's what a lot of people think. They're like, how do I market? I don't know how to market. I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
When we talk about the P&L again, I talk a lot, you know, we talk a lot in the coaching programs that there are kind of, in a sense of like, there's different levers you can pull to affect your bottom line, right? Just like for a very, very surface level, you can increase revenue right? That will improve your bottom line. You can decrease expenses. That will improve your bottom line.
Yep.
So what are some of the levers that you have recommended to me for Pilates in the Grove when looking at our P&L and our operational efficiency that you have said, let's make some adjustments here or there for the betterment of the company, whether that be in 1 month's time, or sometimes those changes do take, this is a long game we're in. Sometimes those changes might take 6 months, 8 months, 12 months. So what are some of the levers that you've recommended we pull? And I think probably are going to be across the board things that people can look at in their own business.
Yeah. I think first and foremost, the way I look at our business growth potential is that if you're going to make an investment in hiring someone, or an investment in buying equipment, or an investment in opening up a new studio, you have to leverage other parts of your business so your profitability is intact. And that's the goal, right?
Can you explain that a little bit? Like, what do you mean by that?
Yeah. So the goal is, if I'm going to spend $30,000 on equipment,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want my profit margin to suffer, right? I don't want to see a negative profit after I pay all my bills. So if I'm going to go in and make that investment into my business, or make a big purchase, or whatever the case may be, I look at other parts in the business that can sustain that, right? So maybe it's a non-revenue generating salary I have that's not really producing the way that we need it to. So let's look at reducing that. Or maybe it's increasing my pricing, right? You want to cover the investment. So it's a bit like a cycle, right? You realize the investment that you want to make and what that is. And then you look at ways in your business where you can support that, right? Because you just don't want to spend $30,000 and it's out the window. You want to be able to spend $30,000 and maybe get back 15 in some other place.
Got it.
Right.
Yeah,
so
that definitely makes sense.
Yeah. So, it's making investments into your business and then utilizing any kind of initiative you can to bring back that money simultaneously, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is always the goal in business. You never want your bottom line to be affected. Some of the things I think that we've done thus far is obviously look at, the current liabilities that we have on our business, and say we've made a conscious effort to say in 2022 we're going to pay off, X amount of dollars of liability that we have. And so how do we do that? We've systematically raised prices, and honestly, like I think it's been very, very healthy for our business. It's been extremely sustainable, and we really haven't missed a beat,
and we really didn't get any pushback from anybody. I mean, to my knowledge, you guys do a really great job of keeping that away from me. So to my knowledge, I don't know that we got a ton of pushback about the price increase.
Sure. Well, I think a lot of that also has to do with our service mentality, our core values, how we service our customers, and, the expectation, like the service we're providing them is still equaling the value that they feel like they're paying for. So that's important. So that's helped. Also we looked at, what we were paying for marketing, right? And you had already preemptively started making that decision to move away from some of that, but that's had a really positive impact on our P&L as well. And some of the other things is really just looking at opportunities to reduce that cost liability, total company expense. And that could come in terms of marketing, labor, even up to cost of goods, like anything that reduces the dollar that we earn, to the bottom line. That is something that we've worked really hard on. And so we've been able to to look at the P&L and in quarter two reduce the liability by like $12,000 to $14,000. And
Right.
so that is, a month. So that's going to be substantial. But again, when we talk about making that call and that investment, we're saving money, but it would be even more advantageous if we save that money, but also brought in more revenue.
Right.
Right.
Exactly. So
Increment.
you're doing both at the same
Yes.
time. And where we're challenged right now, which we've discussed in our meetings, and that's another thing for you guys listening. Like I speak back and forth with Josh all the time, like all day on Slack and Voxer. But we meet as a management team once a week to discuss all of these things and make sure that we're all on track. And the challenge that we've had, is I'm sure many of you out there have, is hiring right now. So we are operating, and if you listen to my Q1 quarterly review podcast, we're operating at like 86, 87% utilization.
Yeah,
and
it's pretty high.
So right now, it's hard for us to bring in more revenue because we are at a ceiling for the most part. And I do not want my team to burn out, because that behooves nobody, right? So we are in, and I know I've heard from a ton of people, like it's hard to hire. We're trying to hire people, so we have the capacity to bring more people in. We just don't have the capacity to bring more clients in with the current staff that we have.
Right.
And so again, can we control that? Indirectly, we can. We have to, I can't just, create a perfect person. Because again, our hiring process is, it's a lot. I want to make sure I have the right people on my team.
Yeah.
So hiring someone that's not going to work out is not the answer to the problem.
Yeah.
So, Joshua being able to say to us, like, well, for where we are in the business, we do not need these additional services that we're paying for. So until we get that back, we should, we can make these decisions. And again, I'm not saying that the decision that Joshua and I make for my business is necessarily right for your business, but if you look at your numbers, they will tell you a story, and you can then decide what to do with that story. Yeah. Right. So I think that that's very powerful. And we've done that. So we have someone in one of our coaching groups that's about to go back into brick and mortar, and she's looking at a new location, and you've helped her. She, with some projections and numbers, and looking at if there are, because when you go into a new location, you have to think whatever you have to put down ahead, first, last security. Sometimes it's like 3-month security. Sometimes so it can be a significant amount. Yeah. Is there going to be a build out? How much is that going to cost? How much is your ramp up time going to cost? What you have to pay cost of goods. So you have been great. And I think from both sides, like you with the numbers and analytics side, and then my numbers with you say you're going to get 700 clients, but do you think you're going to open the door and have 700 clients on month one? I don't know about that, maybe. So I think it's really powerful what we can provide this business owner to say, we think you'll break even at, I don't know, I'm making it up because I don't remember what the numbers are, month 8, or you should have X amount of money, X amount of capital in order to sustain yourself for 1 year.
Yeah.
Right. Looking at those numbers, and you can do nice things in Excel, which I cannot do, but this is why it's really good to have someone like you on our team. So, so maybe some of the things, can you describe some of the things that, if someone were to open a new location or expand, this is another question we get a lot. I've had this opportunity to expand. What are some of the things that you would do for these people, or you would look at in the numbers to help them make objective decisions?
I think the first thing that I would want to see is the current business and profitability, right? Just because you can get a loan from the bank for $200,000 doesn't mean you should run out and open up another studio or have the capacity to pay back that and continue to get profit. So I really want to look at the health of the business first. And as an exercise, I think you have to look at, first and foremost, if I add square footage to my current studio, or if I open up a new studio, it's really the same exercise of understanding the type of services and what you charge and how many clients you need, right? So if you need to make, let's say, $300,000 in 1 year to break even, just in your operating expenses, then I'm not talking about any investment you make to open up or to spend, just in your operating expenses, then you need to work backwards and say, okay, like how many classes does that equal? How many of these privates do I need? How many
And at
people do
what
I
price
need to
point?
hire? Yes.
And at what price point?
And so when you start to play with the I call it the template of success, right? When you
Oh, I
really
like that.
start plugging in different numbers and you can see, well, man, like there's no way I can have 700 clients in 12 months, right? Or maybe you realize that there's, this is very easy, and well, what I think I'm going to get in return is actually going to be more, right?
Mhm.
I think that's where I would say do the homework, and things that we can help them with
Mhm.
is let's do that work first to understand where you're at, right?
Yeah.
I would say first and foremost, if you have capital that you've saved, always use a portion of that, or if you've put aside capital from earnings, always use that first, because
Mhm.
even though we like to see a lot of that capital in the bank, and I know the banks really love to see that money in there as well. You've worked hard, and building your business based on profit is a lot of times more advantageous in growth than building your business based on loans.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Yeah. So, there's a lot of those things. Like we could also run like ROI forecasts to see in terms of, how all of their investments, all the way down to the toilet paper that they buy, right? I mean, we can really get super micro with a lot of things that we can provide. But I think these business owners, they really need to know what their worth is
Mhm.
and understand how to reach out to those clients to get, because ultimately, they are going to be responsible to bring in those clients, right? So they need to know
Right.
how many clients they need.
Yep.
For sure.
Yeah, for sure. And you're absolutely right. Like how many people does that mean they need to hire?
Yeah.
And definitely at what price point? Because some people go the opposite. They're like, okay, if I charge, Jane down the street is charging $100, so I'll charge $100, which means I need to see this many people to make it to 300,000. Versus if we took it, what we teach our students in our coaching programs too is go the opposite way, start from the top down. If you need to earn $300,000 a year and you have this amount of staff on your team right now, because by the way, the more people you hire, the more people you have to manage, and then the more infrastructure you have to provide. And so that comes with a cost as well. An
Absolutely.
emotional cost, an energetic cost,
Training
and
and
sometimes a
development.
financial cost is huge.
It's expensive.
Yeah.
It's expensive to
huge.
invest in people. It
Yeah.
absolutely is. And I
For
think
sure.
also, things that would be, if we're having like an ABC conversation, A would be what we just discussed, and then B would be like looking for properties, right? Looking at leases, looking at ways to structure those business relationships with your landlords and property owners to be the most beneficial for you and how you want to grow your business. Because if you get a lease and you're stuck in ridiculous terms, if you don't really pay attention to that part of the business planning as well, you can really screw yourself out of a lot of profit.
For sure.
Yes.
Or we get into our ego sometimes. I've seen this happen a lot with businesses. They look at this space and they're like, oh my gosh, this is a space I want. It's gorgeous. And I'm like, listen, if you're paying $10,000 a month in rent, you got to sell a shit ton of Pilates classes to break even there. And you know what? Yeah, the windows are beautiful and the high ceilings are fabulous. it doesn't make your Pilates classes better per se, you know? So sometimes you just have to like, yeah, I love that space, you know, but it's like buying a house. Like, would I love to live in, you know, an $8 million house? Yeah. But you know what? That's not in my reality right now. And I'm not going to set myself up for, you know, being a prisoner of my home. So, well, that's super exciting. I love talking numbers, even though I hate extrapolating them on Excel. But this is something that we've started to offer to our the women in our coaching program. But you have been so kind, and because I know that you're actually really passionate about this, of starting to offer this as like an offshoot for other business owners. So can you kind of describe these new financial, I don't know what we want to call them, like financial services and projections. I can't remember what we actually decided to call it, but that you offer to people in case someone's interested in how they can work with you?
Yeah, you know, we have a few basic options essentially, and each option kind of graduates into more involvement in terms of working on strategy with the business owners. But at its core, I think what we call the bronze option is included in our inner circle offering. And what that entails is just a very basic approach to creating an operating budget for you. And it's not just creating an operating budget that, you know, anybody can do. It's creating an operating budget, you know, with your best interests in mind, with your growth potential, with where you're at in your business. And it comes with a very substantial presentation and strategy around that, right? And I would say for the business owner that is looking for a very firm kind of financial foundation, and wants to learn a little bit about reading the P&L and understanding how each number affects one another in terms of raising or lowering, and how this percent comes and why this is important, that's the option for them. It's really a lot of classroom-based information, right, that we provide them, or I provide them. It also comes, yeah, I think that's it actually. And then for the business owner that wants to progress and sees a lot of value in that, you know, we have a package, I think that's called the silver package, which also includes that information. But it also includes developing key performance indicators for your business. And I think that's super exciting and awesome. And I think that's taking the information from the next level, right? And this first level, we give you this information, you know, we kind of tell you how to use it. And then, you know, that's really our involvement. And then we take it to the next level with that information. Then we create, you know, those key performance indicators with you, the business owner, you know, and then we also talk about on a monthly basis how you're performing versus the budget that we've created. You also get one call with me a month, and I think it's like a 50 or 60-minute call, so we can go over all of the results. And then when we move into the next level, the final level is the gold standard, and that gold standard is really a lot more hands-on than the other two options. And it's everything from the bronze and silver package, but now from the gold standard, we are looking at bi-weekly strategy calls, right? We're looking at ways that you can affect your business through those KPIs that we discuss, right? We're looking at your business from, instead of a 30,000 feet level, we're really starting to dig in and work with you on not only how to build strategy, but also how to execute it with your team. And that's, I think, a lot of people in this industry and industry, you know, you can cross-functional industries everywhere, always have these really great ideas, but where it always kind of stops is the executional part and the
Mhm.
follow through. And it's not because of intentions, it's really just because of planning, right? And so we're
Yeah.
there.
And it's hard. Sometimes people don't know what to do. To have somebody hold them accountable
Absolutely.
is better. Sure.
Absolutely. And then with that gold standard, we also curate that financial growth strategy. We produce monthly budget versus actual, conversations and presentations, but with actionable results,
Right.
right? So for the silver package, we give them this information, but now with the gold standard, not only are we giving you this information that we've put together, but now we're walking you through actions that you can actually take to improve results.
Yeah. And then following up with you to make sure, like,
and
how
then
did it work in reality?
yeah, and also it's an in-depth expense and profitability analysis. So it's really super involved,
Yeah. And you also get to then speak with Joshua in his nice soothing voice, like every other week, which will talk you off the ledge as he
I don't
does
know
with
about
me.
that.
Yeah, it does. Very soothing. It's very calming to me. These are services. Why we decided to kind of start to offer these services because I really saw and Joshua saw too, like a kind of a hole in our industry. And not everyone can right now and where they are in their business have someone like Joshua on their team full time. But what he can offer as insight into your business and help you get to that point and achieve your goals is very valuable. So, one of the reasons that I got into coaching and consulting is because I wanted to help fellow business owners realize that they can have a profitable and sustainable business, no matter how large or small. Because by the way, you could have a business that brings in $150,000 in revenue and have like a 30 or 40% profit margin, or you could have a $1.5 million rev business and have 0% profit margin. So it's not about how much you bring in, it's about how much also goes out and the balance between the two. So if this is something that interests you, if working with Joshua or even jumping on like a one-to-one call with him, seeing if this is something that would work for your business, well, we both know that it will work for your business, but go ahead and shoot me an email, Krista@pilatesinthegrove.com, or you can email him. His is Joshua@pilatesinthegrove.com. We're going to link up a bunch of different links in the show notes here as well, so that you can visit our website and take a look at some of the services he offers. And he also is one of the lead coaches in both our FitBiz Foundations program, which is for emerging business owners, and our Inner Circle, which are for the business owners that are growing a team and trying to set all of their systems and processes in place. So they can remove, like as the owners, we can remove ourselves from the day-to-day operations of the business a little bit. So if this is something that you are interested in, I really highly encourage you to reach out to us. We do have a capacity for how many people we can actually take, because this is a lot of work for Joshua, like diving into people's numbers and stuff. And he has to still put up with me on a daily basis, asking him to do random things. But if it is, I encourage you to reach out, jump on a call with him and, do a one-off call, maybe even just do like the projections. You're going to be really, really excited with all of these things that he can show you about your business, where you can go in your business, which is really, really exciting. We don't have to be afraid of our numbers. They're here to help us and, guide us to make objective decisions so that we don't have to feel guilty and worrisome about what we're doing, because the numbers don't lie. So, any closing remarks, Joshua? Any words of wisdom you have for business owners out there that are, still trying to pull themselves out of the last 2-year hole?
I don't know about words of wisdom, but I would say, every day presents a new beginning, right? And just because, and this is so funny because this happens to me all the time. I will look at a financial forecast or be analyzing numbers one day and just see red and a dead end and just think the world is coming to an end. And the next day, when I come back to it, I see opportunity and I see things that we can really push through, and I see potential. And so I think if you look at, pushing yourself and growing your business, it's a day-to-day, it could be like a day-to-day fight, right? Just, I would always stay positive and always remember that the challenges that you see today will look different to you tomorrow, and I think that's the biggest advice I can give people now, right? Seeing how everything is just kind of in a Yahtzee cup, all shook up and, all crazy.
Yeah. And the sooner you start with things like this, the sometimes you don't have to backtrack the mistake or, the previous choices we make. Now, listen, sometimes it is what it is. We can always change. We can always change our mind. We can always go a different direction and pivot. I thought I'd never say that word again, but if you do have the capability to kind of look at these things from the beginning, it does kind of help to not have to backtrack or do over in the future. Yeah. And if you didn't, like, I didn't start doing this until 3 or 4 years ago. So it's not, and I've been in business for 14 years now. So, and it's been really, really eye-opening in the last couple of years. And when you work with someone that's, also easy to work with, and it's a conversation. It's a back and forth conversation, because sometimes, yes, numbers are great. Reality sometimes is a little different, right? But when you combine the two, you really can be very powerful and make some objective decisions. So Absolutely. This has been so great to have this little chat with you. So I actually love to do, I don't think I sent you these questions, but it's, I love to do like a little rapid fire, like random questions. I know they're so easy. They're so easy. Have some coffee. It gives you, I'm not going to ask you to sing opera, although I did think about that, because I still haven't heard you sing, actually.
The opera shop is closed, unfortunately. So,
well, I'm going to have to, well, okay. So I'm going to start with this question then, because this is perfect for your background. What is your favorite opera?
Oh, wow. My favorite opera. There's so many that are so great. I'm a Wagnerian fan. And so I'm going to go with Parsifal.
I would love to say I know what that is, but I'm not an opera fan. But if there's opera fans out there, shoot us like a DM. Let us know that you knew that one. That was great. Okay. If you were not doing what you are doing now for your job, what do you think you'd be doing?
I think I would be, if I wasn't working with you in the capacity I am today, I would probably be working in an executive capacity with a specialty food retailer. Oh. And being bored.
Being bored.
Being bored.
Being bored.
Yes.
Let's do this one. What is something that most people get wrong about you or misconstrue about you?
That's an interesting question. I think it's so funny. A lot of people either really get my sense of humor or they don't. And if they don't, it's really kind of detrimental on how they feel about me. So it's like either you really like me or you don't, which is funny because I feel like I'm just really kind of the same with everybody and really low key. But my wife has told me that that's something that
you should work on.
Yes.
Oh, I think you're pretty, I mean, in my experience, I think that you've been pretty even keel with everybody. So yeah, I, on the other hand, have like borderline multiple personality disorder. So I can be like really sweet in 1 second and the next minute a raving lunatic. So, okay. Last question.
Yes.
What is your favorite book, whether it be fiction, nonfiction, business related, or I think that's all of the options.
I'll give you my my favorite book from a business standpoint is The 4 Levels of Execution.
Oh, I haven't read that one.
The 4 Levels of Execution is probably the book that had the most influence for me in my career in obtaining results, not developing strategy and not like working on emotional intelligence. It's really about taking all of that and how do you get the result from, operating in a company that has 5 people to a company that has 50,000. And then my other favorite book that I have read is again, it's probably kind of boring, but Anna Karenina is another book.
Really?
Yeah.
I read Anna Karenina in school. Maybe I have to reread it as an adult. I feel like some of the books I had to read in school, I was kind of like I was forced to read them, so they weren't choices. I wouldn't say Anna Karenina was. So do you like that like genre?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's quite romantic in thought, and that whole time period. It's pretty fascinating to me from a history perspective, but also from literature.
Yeah. So do you like historical fiction then too? Like
I do. And it's interesting, I think, through my studies with music, is that I've grown to really love like the romantic German poets.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm learning so many new things about you today.
Yeah, Goethe and Wolf are people that I really enjoy reading, and also Walt Whitman.
I do love Walt Whitman. I do love poetry myself. Yes. A little Dylan Thomas. I like
nice.
T.S. Eliot. I like a lot
T.S. Eliot. Yeah.
Yeah. So I do like poetry.
Yeah.
So, well, this has been wonderful. And I hope that the listeners really enjoyed it. I think you gave such great little tidbits of information on a level that most of us can understand. And that's, I think, another like superpower of yours, that you can bring numbers, and analytics are complicated and complex. And it's important to be able to break them down into digestible pieces of information that people actually know what to do with, so that's been great. You're going to have your first full like 6-month financial assistance client starting any day now, I think. So like we said, we're going to link all this stuff up in the show notes. If you're interested in working with Joshua, who's a plethora of information, I invite you to reach out to us. He's also really, really nice to chat to and just easy to work with. And I hope you join us for another episode. And I hope we bring you back, Josh. We talk all the time. We should just record our conversations.
You know where I am.
I know where you are.
Available.
So, well, thanks so much for joining us. And until next time, my friends, bye for now.